Do you remember what it was like when you didn't know anyone else that did WordPress? How many people can know that feeling? Yeah, some of you are newer in the game, but back in the day, that was not uncommon. And I really remember that. My name is Judi Knight, and I run a small agency in Atlanta since 2008. And like most of you, I didn't start out as a WordPress developer. And like the speaker before us, who must have some psychology in her background, I'm actually a clinical psychologist by training. And then I started a software company that did medical records for psychiatric hospitals and ran that for 10 years. We eventually sold it. And when we sold it, I let my license go because I really didn't want to go sit in a room with people I couldn't be friends with. But I had no idea what I was going to do next. So at that point, it was 2000, and I just burned my ships and went on. And as a hobby, though, I had been building things, building buildings. And I had bought a big building, a warehouse in Atlanta for our software company. I had made one of the spaces in that building a loft, a big loft for where I lived and now where my business is. And so when I sold the company, I finished building out that building and then took some of the revenue and started buying a few other buildings. And that was cool. I really love building things. And it's very similar, actually, to building websites. So in 2005 or 6, I had some lofts on my hand that I needed to sell because I saw before everything hit the fan that overbuilding and these crazy mortgages and things not selling as fast as they could, I knew I had to get rid of some of this inventory or I was going to be in trouble. So I Googled my business name at the time, and what came up was my dog's blog on Dogster. Number one for the business name. I mean, I wasn't even doing real estate, for sale. It was like JC Knight Properties, Dogster. He only wrote 3 posts, and he never really even mentioned me. So my business site was number 40 on the 4th page, where nobody ever goes. And I'm like, why did that happen? And I asked people, why did that happen? Finally, somebody said, oh, it's because Dogster is a content management website, and it manages content and gets great search engine ranking because of that. I'm like, oh my God, everybody's going to want that. Because I hated having that old static website where you had to, what did you do when you had a new project? And I mean, it just was like, everybody's going to want that. But at that point, I didn't care about everybody. I made my website, redid it in WordPress, and at that point, I didn't know anybody else that was doing WordPress, but I learned everything I could about it online, and thank God for Lisa and WordPress for Dummies. So I built mine, and I actually, by 2008, when the real bottom fell out of the real estate market, thank God I had dumped most of the things I had, and so I didn't get clobbered, in part due to my WordPress website. So I'd find myself with a lot of time on my hands in the coffee shop, my friend's coffee shop. And because I'm a psychologist and I can't help myself, and a serial entrepreneur, I'd be helping people, my friends and family and people with their websites, and I'd talk loud. And people would overhear me and they'd say, can I have your card? I'm like, I don't have a card. Well, I want to work with you, because they'd never heard about WordPress. I want to work with you. I don't have a business. And this kept happening until I said, they wore me down. And I said, okay, I'll take your money. And so that was in 2008. And what I realized, though, is before, if I got to something I didn't know how to do, I'd just decide I would do it a different way. And when you're working commercially, you can't do that. And so, there was a big learning curve. And so I dove in and learned what to do, and I still didn't know anyone locally that did WordPress. I finally found a Meetup, a WordCamp in New Orleans in 2009, and I went there, and I signed up, and I couldn't wait to go, but I was really nervous that I'd be weird or something, that everybody else would be like young geeks or something, and I found that wasn't true. It was, like diverse and lots of people. So they told me that, oh, I forgot to use my slides. This is a desert island I felt like I was on. But they told me there was a meetup. And so I went back to Atlanta and I went to look up the meetup, and there was one that was going to happen in a coffee shop across town. I was like, oh, great. So I braved the traffic. I went across town, and the reality was you couldn't hear a thing. There were all these people, like maybe 5 or 6, 7 people that were actually some of the best WordPress minds in town. And it was awful. And so every time the meetup came across every month, I'd be like, meetup. Damn, they're not doing it right. And so then I thought, one day I thought, well, maybe, because I have this big loft, maybe they want some help. What a concept. And so I asked Jack, do you need help? And he said, yeah, I need help. And so that was a real turning point. So we ended up growing that meetup to now well over 2,000 people, and I actually ended up running it for 5 years in my living room. Then over the past year, I kind of got rid of it out to other people, let other people have a chance, and I also ran was a lead person for WordCamp. You know, somebody said, well, do you and Russell Fair want to do WordCamp? I'm like, well, God, I'm really busy, but okay. And so I just turned over the lead on that too this year. So I was trying to think of what grew our WordPress community to have the point where last year at WordCamp, we had 580 people and we sold out in 3 hours. And I wanted to turn that wisdom over to my guys who took over the big meetup in town. And so I came up with 10 points. And one of the biggest ones is somebody has to be in charge. You know, you really have to have someone be the bottom line. And because I didn't want to at first, I thought, oh, I'm overstepping my bounds. Let's come by, everybody help out. But somebody, you know, get everybody involved. But somebody needs to be the one that puts the meetups online and make sure it happens. The next thing is, of course, find a great space. That can be any kind of a space, but make sure you can have a presentation there and that it feels good and, you know, it's central or something. The third thing is there's no particular time. If you do it in the day or if you do it at night, you won't please everybody. So just do it. And anybody can have a WordPress meetup. You don't have to wait to be invited. You can decide to have one and post a topic and get it. So the fourth thing is make sure your descriptions of your program are clear. You don't want to say plugins and then have 30 people come in who go when they realize somebody's talking how to develop a plugin. So make it clear what level it is, what it's about. These are the soft skills. Greet people at the door. You know, some of the meetups, just people come, people go, nobody asks you your name, and that is a fail. I think one of the biggest things that grew our community is that we made name tags, like with the little, that you could put in you could print out your meetup stuff and stick it in the name tags, and everybody had a name tag. They'd give it back at the end of the time, and they felt like they belonged because the next time they came, they got their name tag back. So greet people. The name tags are essential because I have the memory of a gnat, and most people don't remember people's names, and if you want to grow your community, you have to. A lot of people are afraid of networking, so make it easy for them and have a time beforehand where you have food, stuff going on, find out who's there, hook them up with other people. Introduce your new members. You know, make those connections between the people. And leave at the end of the time for questions. If somebody has a burning desire, if they came to this meetup because they're stuck on something or they're a very beginner, send them to a beginner's area. Leave half an hour or so where they can get that help that they came with. You know, find out what they need and make sure that they get it and invite them back. And I know these things sound kind of like, well, of course. but I've been to many meetups that they don't do this. And so, I totally invite you to get involved in your local community if you have one and volunteer, say yes, because every time I've said yes, it's led to me getting way more out of it than I gave. And so, and it culminates with having a really busy WordPress business and being able to be here today. What a gift. So you can do that too. I was just some person that didn't know anybody doing WordPress. So thanks.